This evening, I'm joined by my co-host, Kevin Hooks, and more than anything, saying congratulations, how proud we are to have the Honorable Ella Jones here. Not only is she the first, she is a first for all of us, a sister. When you see the resurrection of an Ida B. Wells, when you see the resurrection of all of those women, Dorothy Height, when you see the women who have been on the forefront, to make sure that we all have an option, to make sure that the young girls who are growing up can see leadership and women who are moving forward, sacrificing their time. We all pondered who would it be in Ferguson. I am so proud to say that we now know the answer was Ella Jones. And then from the National Civil Rights Museum, we have Faith Morris, who continues to make sure that the museum is more than a museum, but it is a culture and creative motivation that moves forward the agenda so we can reimagine ourselves and understand that there's nothing that Dr. King did in vain. Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Well, first and foremost, congratulations, Mayor Jones. I didn't quite hear you. She on mute?
Yeah, mute, Mayor.
She's out.
Oh, she's not on mute. Okay.
Oh, she is on mute, according to this.
Might want to try that again.
Sure.
She might have to come back, TJ. Well, we want to hope TJ give her a hand to come back in. All right. If you can sign out, Mayor Jones, and maybe come back in, we're looking forward to continuing this conversation here on A Seat at the Table. Faith Morris, voting reimagined.
Yeah.
There's a presidential debate tonight, and we are all here. It's a moving time because there are those individuals that are not just on the presidential ballot, they're talking about flipping states, states going blue. We're talking about having more women in Congress, more women in the Senate than we've ever imagined. So, reimagining voting. What is that for our culture and community?
So let's take a look at that. There are 232 Black candidates on this ballot. So anybody that's thinking that they're just voting for a president, they need to really take another look because there are some more decisions that need to be made. There are folks running for city council. There's city, state, and federal elections that are up this time. We've been talking about through Imagining America, having folks really plan to vote, know what is at stake, understand who represents who you are and what your interests are and what will move your community and your family along, and vote that way. So I see Mayor Jones. Are you back, Mayor Jones?
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Sometimes these computers have a mind of their own.
Amen.
That's the virtual pivot. And that's the virtual waltz that we do every once in a while, for sure. Mayor Jones, we're really excited about having you. You and I have been playing this dance for a couple of weeks, just making sure that tonight happens, right?
Yes.
So glad that you are here, and I agree with Munson about congratulating you on being the first female and the first Black mayor of Ferguson. What is that about?
It's very challenging. And when I say it's very challenging, it's that people tend to expect more, even though I'm a woman, I'm an African-American woman, but my counterpart, they don't expect the same thing. So therefore, I work with a group of people that we have to do over and beyond what is needed for us to do. And so it's to the point where my assistant, we take in 20 to 30 telephone calls a day, no end to emails. I'm always out in the community talking to people. People are looking for me to solve problems. And in that problem solving, then they tend to say, oh, you really mean that you're going to work in the community and that you're going to take time with the youth. So it's basically challenging, rewarding, but yet I still have to prove myself, even at this stage.
Why did you run? Why did you decide that this was what you needed to do at this time?
Well, when I decided that I needed to run, because as I walk through the community and go through the various neighborhoods, a lot of our Black neighborhoods are underserved, and our children are not getting what they need. And when I say that, if a child lives in a community and a community is not stabilized, that child is not going to do well in school. So my dream and my hope is that everyone in Ferguson will live a good quality life. And that's one of the reasons why I ran, because the playing field needs to be level. And I'm just, when you get sick and tired of being sick and tired, then someone has to get up and do something. And I got up. And I work with my constituents. I don't care if you're Black, green, purple, or white. If you want to work, come on, let's work together to move our community forward.
So tell us a little bit about, go on, Kevin, did you have a question?
Yeah, Mayor Jones, I'm really pleased to have you on. I get so impressed when I see people who do things of the unexpected. I feel like you've been doing the unexpected for most of your life. I mean, hell, you got a degree in chemistry at a time when women, let alone Black women, weren't expected to do that. You've been in one community, being a leader in the community for so many years, an entrepreneur. Where did that come from?
Well, it comes from my grandmother. I was born and raised in the South. And she instilled in us, don't let nobody tell you what you can and cannot do. You be the determining factor. You look within yourself and get what you want and do. And she taught us never to be jealous of no one. If someone has something you want, go over to them and ask them, how did you do that? Once you find out, and if you really want it, then you do it, but put your spin on it. So it's just come from being raised in the South. When I went back to college to get my degree in chemistry, a couple of professors told me, oh, you won't be able to make it. Right. Being the only Black woman in the class, but they didn't know I was good in mathematics. And being the first at everything, when I pastored a church, I was the first person to pastor a major congregation in St. Louis. I was the first person to rehab a church and first person on my job. So I have always been a trailblazer. My mom always taught us, create your own path. You don't have to always follow what somebody else is out there doing, but it's always good to create your own path.
I love it. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
So Ferguson is a majority Black city, right?
68% African American.
How important is it that majority Black cities have majority Black leadership?
It's very important because we understand the culture of African American people. And when you have a quality leader, and that leader understands the culture, then that leader is going to do everything that's possible to bring in new jobs. They always say that our neighborhoods are run down first, but if we instill in people to keep their properties up, we instill in people to continue to get their children educated, they get education. find a good job. You know, it's important that we have good jobs here also, because we have some parents who are single parent and that mom is working 2 jobs, just trying to make ends meet. So bringing quality jobs here where the pay is acceptable and where that parent doesn't have to work 2 jobs to take care of her children. So being a Black person here in Ferguson, it in my election gave people hope, because they finally believe that they can go beyond what has been always dished out to them. And that's very important.
Can you've got incredible pillars to your platform. It's, about public safety and about seniors and the consent decree and youth development. When you were coming up with those ideas, how much involvement in the local community did you have coming up with those ideas, and how are they being received as you seek to implement them?
I have a lot of involvement from the citizens, because I didn't create this platform by myself. I went out knocking doors. Yep. And I asked people, what do you want to see change in Ferguson? And the immediate thing was public safety. They want a police department that is going to respect the youth and respect people. When you have a group of young Black African Americans standing on the corner, they're not up to no good. But when the police come, if he get out his car and walk over to them and have a decent conversation, he can see our children are just intelligent as the next person. So just getting our police to continue to use constitutional policing, because we're under consent decree here in Ferguson. In 2014, the fatal shooting of Michael Brown, he laid on that pavement for almost, in the streets for almost 4 hours. That's unacceptable. I don't care who child it is. So, and the DOJ came in and found Ferguson doing some things they had no business doing. So we had to enter into a consent decree. Right now we are in our 4th year. And my biggest thing right now is advocating for a community coordinator. And that person will be like a social worker. Sometimes the police go out on domestic calls and they end up the wrong way. So if we have a social worker and the police know he's going out on a domestic call, that social worker can go with that police, talk to that family, and get them the needed resources that they need. And with the social worker out there helping those families, the police don't have to make all those calls for domestic disputes. They could be out riding up and down the road, talking to people and being present in the neighborhood, so people don't believe that they are on a racetrack.
I love it.
So what happened with Michael Brown in 2014, and what certainly happened this year with Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, the outbreak, in the streets of protest after Michael Brown, the same thing that happened after Breonna and George Floyd, and the result of the police, not being charged. The comparison is, nothing has changed really. Stay woke kind of happened after Michael Floyd. It became woke culture after, Michael Brown. After Michael Brown, we started talking about staying woke and watching police brutality. It was a watchword for folks. That really happened because of Ferguson. So now we're in 2020 and the issues are the same. What is moving Ferguson forward?
What is moving Ferguson forward is the people coming together and saying enough is enough. And they are rattling behind me as their leader. As Black folks, we don't follow folk too readily. So having a quality person, and you know what? I had to earn people respect. It didn't automatically come to me. I had to get in the trenches with the people. When I've been to a lot of baseball games. I've been to a lot of recitals. I've cleaned more streets. I've done everything with the people. If the people say our street needs to be clean, I say, come on, let's do it together. So they realize that I care about them. And one thing I've learned in life, people are not interested in how much you know until you show them how much you care. And that was a big factor for people to rally behind me and started this movement because it gave people hope. I've seen Black men who would never stand up for their community, and they're out here standing up for their communities. And I've seen a lot of Black women who are getting on our boards and our commissions, places where they are able to make a decision, they're able to sit at the table where the decisions are made. And I share with people all the time, it was great that we protested. However, it's even better to go knock on the city hall door and say, hey, I'm going to run for office. I need a seat at the table where the decisions are made. Makes a big difference.
Huge difference. Let's talk about voting. Let's talk about, we got one of the biggest elections of our lifetime coming up, and we've had some important ones, but this is important for lots of different reasons, right? 12 days before this November 3rd election. What are you telling folks in your community about the importance of this vote?
If they don't get out and vote, they're going to keep getting what they've been getting. And we have voter registration drives. We've been knocking on doors, registering people. In North County, where Ferguson is, we have registered over 65,000 new people. And we are still knocking on doors. We still having events. We have an event coming up on Sunday night where one of the municipalities just put in a new skating rink, an outside skating rink. And we're gathering young people, tell them they could come and they can skate for free. However, we having the Democrats over there to talk to the young people. So we're going to continue to talk to them. We're going to continue to show them that we have quality leadership here. And if they need a ride to the polls, we don't care. It's COVID. Put your mask on, put your gloves on, and get in the back seat, and we are taking you to vote. It is imperative that we make an impact here in Ferguson and in Missouri to get the right person in the White House and get number 45 out.
It's amazing. Some 30 million or so people have already voted in the early voting processes so far. And I'm really impressed by that early turnout. One of the key drivers, other than people want change, is they're looking for things like improved healthcare and improved job opportunities. We've got an administration that is going to be, for the first time, have a net negative gain in new jobs at the end of the administration, assuming there's a change. What kinds of things are driving your people to the poll, the people in Ferguson to the poll?
Well, not only the local level, but we have a state election going on. We have state representatives running. We are looking for healthcare. Our people need better healthcare. COVID-19, as you know, 45 moved slow. So therefore we had a Republican governor and he moved very slow. We had to take it upon ourselves in the community. And one thing I would like about the Urban League, they heard the cry of the people. For 22 weeks, we were able to service from 3,000 to 5,000 people per week. We had people donating, major companies donating $50,000 and $60,000 to get food to these people. In North County, Ferguson was the first community to open up a testing site. I got a lot of grief about it, but I didn't care because it was our people suffering. And so the test sites right now, we have Affinia Healthcare. They are just moving all over the county mobily doing COVID testing for our people. So we are the ones who have to turn around and look at our situation and don't look for someone else to do it, but we get out there and do it ourselves.
I love it. The comorbidity rates from the pandemic are absolutely ridiculous. Blacks are 3 times more likely to die from the pandemic than their white counterparts. And the data just kind of continues to be the same across the board as with other categories that we're concerned about. And I love the idea that you can affect change. Are you seeing any impact of the fact that you're doing testing in a way that maybe other counties haven't in terms of the morbidity rate and things like that?
Yeah, we are. It didn't come over a little clear, however, but the COVID testing, it's big here in North County since we got it moving. We find our counterparts, we are the ones that wearing the mask.
Mm-hmm.
We're the ones that socially distancing ourselves. We're the ones that not going to church on Sunday and we watching our pastors preach to us on Facebook. So even now, if you go out in the park, we had a big cleanup day. The Black people had on masks, our counterparts didn't. So they don't believe it can happen to them. I have friends, I have a young couple, he was in the midst of running for the senator for the state of Missouri. His whole family came down with COVID. And that played a major part of him not winning that race because his whole family came down in COVID 3 weeks before the election. So it's heavy here. And we're continually, every day I'm out handing out masks to people, going to the St. Louis County Health Department, getting boxes and boxes of masks, handing them out to people, make certain children understand that they need to have a mask also. So just trying to educate our people to stay safe and be healthy.
You know, Fannie Lou Hamer talked about being a first-class citizen, and I feel like you are the embodiment of that first-class citizenship. So I really just want to congratulate you again for the great work that you're doing. I'm just so impressed by everything that's happening.
Thank you. We have a political group who have named themselves Fannie Lou Hamer, and they are a force to be reckoned with. You want to really work to get their endorsement. They are serious about it. And I'm like, why did you all name yourself Fannie Lou Hamer? And then they said, well, you should have realized. I said, I realized what she was like. So, but they are a phenomenal group. And if anybody want to make an impact in the African-American community, they got to go through the Fannie Lou Hamer group.
I love that.
Yeah.
At the museum, at the National Civil Rights Museum, you know, we have dug pretty deep on this whole making sure that folks imagine what America can be like. America, how we can imagine how we can impact these issues that we're dealing with every day, many of them that we've been dealing with for centuries, and certainly since the civil rights movement, but far beyond and definitely since the movement. And now we're in a contemporary movement and it's the same thing. So I want you to see something because I'd love to get your reaction to it. And it talks about what we've been going through in this nation just to vote. It talks about, you know, and you'll find that history has repeated itself in some instances because some of those things are still happening now. TJ, could you read them?
If you can't vote, you're a slave. We lost one of the greatest freedom fighters for voting rights in the US Congressman John Lewis. The best way that we can honor John Lewis is to exercise our right to vote. Many more before him gave the ultimate sacrifice. Men and women such as James Chaney, Michael Schwerner, Viola Liuzzo, Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and others. 55 years later, their sacrifice and their honor still rings true today. It showcased to America that the right to vote was still an issue. Of all the previous elections that we've had in our country before, none are more important than today.
However difficult the moment, however frustrating the hour, it will not be long, because truth crushed earth will rise again. How long? Not long, because no lie can live forever.
We have to vote like our life depends on it, because it does. Imagine an America where one person, one vote is truly a reality.
And so the video actually starts with us imagining having to count jelly beans to be able to vote, to be able to recite the Constitution. I mean, all the possible things that were put before us. And now we come to what we're doing with now. I don't know if you're having this in Ferguson, but there are instances all over the nation. Here in Memphis, I'm in Memphis, Tennessee, where fewer early voting polling places, although folks have figured it out, thank goodness, because of the heavy vote, which is good. But just pushing that, voting regardless of what the situation is, regardless of what's going on. I mean, is that what's happening in Ferguson? Is that the culture that you have started there, with you being in the position that you are in now, which is history making? And I know from there's going to be several others that are doing the same thing, because you have opened that door.
Well, voter suppression is alive and well here in North County. And would I say that 5 years ago, we had 13 polling places here in Ferguson. Now we have 6.
Yeah.
Wow.
I went to the St. Louis County Board of Election, and our Democratic director is Eric Fay. And he was like, "Ms. Jones, please." I'm like, you can't shut down polling places where our senior citizens are able to walk to. When you close a polling place where a senior citizen has to catch a ride, that senior citizen is most likely not going to go vote that day. So we had it to the point where they was deciding that we needed to keep some polls open. We have a group of residents who they don't have transportation. They're on the bus. They closed their polling place. So we had to make provisions for those registered voters to get to the polling places. We have a lot of senior citizens who, when they get their absentee ballot, they don't even know who to vote for. We have to continue to do voter education. Then we have our young people say, "Oh, my vote doesn't count." And it does count. We have to educate them also. So what we've been doing is getting our young people to volunteer on campaigns. And if they could see and experience a campaign and what this person is going through and the platform they put together to move the community forward, our young people are beginning to change the way they look at voting. We had so many people who didn't even get their absentee ballot, but yet we still have to get them to the polls. So voter suppression is alive and it is well.
I read some interesting data points that for every obstacle that's put in the way to disenfranchise voters, we lose about 0.5% of the voters. And in fact, it was realized that in 2018, we lost 7% of African American voters that were already registered because of the different disenfranchisement strategies that were put in place. And so I am concerned even now that we've got registered voters and we've done this yeoman's effort of getting people registered as voters to vote, but that people aren't going to show up because of all of the hurdles that are being put in their way. So I applaud the work for, driving people to the vote and all that. Are there other techniques that you could share with other people that maybe you're using that you see as effective?
Well, what we are doing here is not only going door to door, but we are asking people who need a ride. And we're making certain those people get to the polls. And then we don't have early voting here in St. Louis County. We have absentee voting, and it's to the point where if you go and vote absentee, they ask you, oh, where are you going to be on election day? And you have to tell them, oh, you have to come up with something. And so that's how a lot of people are getting in to vote early. Now, the day of the election, we have candidates who are providing rides. We have the Democratic Club. We're doing mailings. We're doing everything we can think of to get people out to vote. And let me piggyback off that. The 2020 census, that was the most important 9 questions that we can ask. We had to go out and educate our community because the first thing the African American people were saying, the government is trying to get my business. No, they're not trying to get in your business. We're trying to get you counted. For every person that fills out the 2020 census, the government sends back $1,300 to your community. Now, just imagine you had 10 people who did not fill out the census. $1,300 times 10, that's $13,000 a year for 10 years that your community will be missing. So what we did, we wrapped it all together. We asked people, are you registered? Are you a registered voter? Some people say yes. Then, hey, have you completed your 2020 census? So we've been out hitting it hard, and we know that here in North County, it's going to remain blue, and we're going to keep red out. And Missouri is a red state, and we're planning on taking it to be a blue state this time.
So what does Ferguson look like a year from now?
What Ferguson look like a year from now? We have sidewalks to walk on. Yeah, there's no sidewalks in Ferguson. You got to walk in the street. This neighborhood was built back in the 50s. I don't know what they was thinking about. People, you need sidewalks to walk on. So we're going to have sidewalks to walk on. The industrial part of Ferguson, all of the land will be held by warehouses. They will be able to give people jobs. NGA is coming here in its downtown. So my goal is to make Ferguson regional instead of a silo. When you are siloed, nothing can come in and nothing can get out. But having it regional, I have put together a task force of a lot of business people, and they are my think tank. We're going to find ways, we're going to find resources, and we're going to take the housing stock and improve it, stabilize our neighborhoods, attract people to come live in Ferguson so we can put some of our houses back on the tax roll. We're going to have jobs here for people where they don't have to go drive 10 and 15 miles to work. They'll be right here locally. And the most important thing, our businesses will be thriving and our senior citizens can age in place.
There's something historic about Ferguson that this audience just has to know. You know, we're dealing with the Green Book at the National Civil Rights Museum, and Ferguson was a sundown town.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And that very few folks knew about sundown towns other than we knew we better not be in places, after, especially if you were a Black man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just
Ferguson was a sundown town. And at that point, Kinloch is adjacent to Ferguson. And what they did, they planted a hedge where you couldn't come in Ferguson. And you had to go around through Berkeley in order to come through Ferguson. And right now, that hedge is still up. They just put a street through it, suburban. So, and as history recalls it, that Black people from Kinloch were allowed to come to Ferguson and be maids and butlers and whatever during the day. But when sundown came, you had to be out of Ferguson. And that is the most disturbing thing that I've learned about the history of Ferguson. And right now, Kinloch used to be a thriving town, but right now it is not. And we have a state representative. She is working diligently to bring Kinloch back to a thriving town for African Americans. We just had a super big cleanup. It's like people come from all over the city and want to dump all of their stuff in Kinloch. So she got this big cleanup together. We've made a big dent, but she is working diligently. And State Representative Rachel Prudy, she is doing a great work.
I hear an awful lot of women's names being called.
Yeah.
Ferguson.
The year of the woman.
Exactly.
And you know what? It's so, people always have this theory, Black women can't work together. We catty. And that's not true. We work well together when it comes to our family. We are the best nurturers, come to our community, getting our children raised properly. We got a group of women that work here. We are phenomenal. I have to say it myself.
Anita, give it to a woman. Come on now.
Yeah,
we
we
work
work
in
together.
America for 400 years, so I'm happy to know you.
And it doesn't say we don't disagree. We disagree all the time, but that's not important. Our people, the constituents, doing for our children, that's the most important thing we could do. That is, every year we get together, we have a big backpack giveaway at the Emerson Family YMCA. We make certain our children have the tools they need to be successful in school. And then when January comes, we get together and put brand new tennis shoes on children's feet. So working together, yeah, we queens.
Yes, I love that. I love that. You are 142 days in. 142 days in. Has it felt like 142 days?
Every day.
342 days, right?
Every day. Every day. I just, when I made 90 days, I had a town hall because I promised the people when I was campaigning that within 90 days, I will give them a report on how I was faring with the city and working with the council. And people were calling me, are you really gonna do a 90 days report? I said, yes, I gave you my word and I'm gonna stick to my word. So we had a 90-day report. And in that report, I let them know that I went to Jefferson City. I did a testimony for a new nursing home to come into Ferguson to bring 150 jobs, testify on the need certificate. They'll be opening soon. had this St. Louis County executive. I told him, you need to come to my town and you need to see what we need. And we took him on a tour to let him know the monies that the county have, they need to place them in our neighborhoods. In addition to that, just working with the people, making a difference.
So Muslim, your favorite question?
I have no favorite questions. This is your moment.
Yes, you do. The top priority.
Right. Yep. Yep.
My top 3 priorities
for community.
Yep.
for my community: economic development, stabilize our businesses. COVID has hit them, and working through the CARES Act, Ferguson has put up $250,000 to help these businesses stay afloat. We've got to get them past this COVID-19, attract new businesses to come to bring jobs. My senior citizens, home repair, working with different nonprofit agencies to find funding to help my senior citizens repair their homes. My children, they are virtual, making certain that they have Chromebooks. Pastor Jose, we all work together to open up a learning center in an unserved neighborhood where if their parents go off through the day to work, they could go to the learning center. Keeping our children on task and keeping them on the grade level is very important during this pandemic, and keeping the people healthy. We've got to continue to preach social distances and put that mask on. Those are my priorities.
Love it. Love it. Love it. The compassion, it just comes through your heart and out your mouth. I mean, it just like skips your brain and because your heart speaks. What has faith taught you when you have vision, have faith? What has it taught you through this journey, and how do you see that manifesting in the future of Ferguson as you move forward to vote with your heart and your mind and your faith?
My faith keeps me grounded. Faith without works is dead. That's number one I know. I walk by faith and not by sight. And without a vision, the people will perish. And I also hold up the vision real high for people to see. Now, everyone is not going to come on board, but that's okay. I have a majority of the people who want better for themselves. They want better for their communities. They want to be able to walk their communities and be safe. So my faith is all I have, because when they start being negative, and they are heavily negative, I have to stay focused, because if I don't stay focused on the task that God has signed on my hand to do, to lead these people, then I'll turn around and go back and try to answer those negative people, and I'll lose ground. My faith keeps telling me, stay focused, press on, because the work that we have to do here in Ferguson is bigger, it's larger than the folk who are negative. And our goal is to make a lasting impact on the people in this community. And here is the most important thing I share with people. If Ferguson fails, all the municipalities around us fail. It becomes a domino effect. So it's very important that we stay focused, continue to work with the various mayors in the different municipalities so we can keep this North County healthy for our children.
That's wonderful. Reimagining voting. What do you imagine, given the impact of COVID impact of racial and social justice. How do you reimagine our community once we have hopefully retaken the White House? How do you imagine a Black community with a different agenda? What do you imagine our agenda just nationally should be as a community, given the impact and what you've seen happen to our economy or to our community during COVID?
Well, the first thing I see is they need to do another stimulus to keep the people moving forward. And then we have to elect good senators and good congresspeople to go up there with an agenda to build our economy locally. They can't go up there and start, well, I'm not gonna go there. But anyway, we need them to go up there with an agenda and make certain that they fight for what their constituents need on the local level. Getting to the point where our businesses are taking more of an active lead in the community. Just don't be a business that's in a community that's sitting there, but put more resources into the community. And people taking pride and understanding that their vote made a difference, and they can continue to work to see how the people they elected is going to be accountable. And if they're not accountable, take them out. Take them out. So that's what I see.
Excellent.
It's been wonderful connecting with you tonight. It has been wonderful hearing your voice, understand, how you are going out in these streets and making things happen in Ferguson, that you have, sounds like a strong community around you to help achieve some of those things that you are working to get done for Ferguson. Most of this nation got introduced to Ferguson in 2014. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot to be understood about what Ferguson is now. And that you are sitting in that seat, should be a lot of motivation and inspiration for women, Black folks, just folks that are really trying to do the right thing, regardless of party. Right. Just trying to do the right thing. And I'm really, really impressed with what you have been doing, and hearing your story really, I was getting ready to tear up a little bit when you was talking about some of that stuff. I was trying to be a big girl over here. But it's really good. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. In 2014, be very, very honest with you, so I was a successful entrepreneur, living a good quality life. And when Mike Brown happened, the elected officials came to me and said, Ella, we need you to step up. I said, whoa, wait a minute. I got my business. I'm doing this. I'm enjoying my life. They said, no, we need you to step up. I said, okay, what do you want me to do? And they wanted me to run for office. I had a senator, the congressman, the state representative. I'm like, you all don't even know me. They say, yes, we do. We've been knowing you for years. We've been watching you. Now it's time for you to step up. And I called Congressman Clay on yesterday, and he and I had a very good conversation. I was like, if you did not encourage me to transfer my skills and go out here and fight to get a seat at the table, I would not be in the seat that I'm sitting in today. And that's why I always reach back. And when I was campaigning, I found a bunch of young women and young men. I said, come on, learn this, because I need somebody to replace me. I can't be here the rest of my life. But if I could train someone else to take my place, I know this city will be in good hands once I step down.
I just believe that if you didn't have a seat at the table, you would bring your own folding chair.
Right?
I would. That is the truth.
And
That
put it at
is
the
the
head of the
truth.
table.
And put it at move the table.
Right.
That is the truth. Because I was knocking on that door hard to get in. They say I can do it. Okay, I'm gonna do it.
I believe it. I'm convinced.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
So for those of us who want to support you, where do we go if we want to donate money to your work? We want to, just keep in touch with the kinds of efforts you're doing so that we can steal from it and use it in other communities. Where can we find you all across all the social media platforms, et cetera?
I didn't get all of your question, but I think
Website, social, Instagram, Facebook. How do we find you?
Oh, I'm on Facebook. I'm on Facebook. I tweet every now and then. I have to get young people to tweet for me. I'm on Instagram, but I have a huge presence on Facebook, and you find everything I'm doing out on Facebook. So yeah, that's how you can follow me.
We really thank you for all that you've done. We look forward to you. Last question. If you were talking to everyone in the Black community about voting, finish the sentence. Please go vote because.
Your life depends on it.
Ooh.
You are the one that can make the difference. Your vote matters. Your vote counts.
Thank you so much, Ella Jones. We appreciate you coming to a seat at the table with Faith Morris, Kevin Hooks. We want you to